With the apocalypse on its way, a demon and an angel misplace the Antichrist. Despite scholars' theories on when the universe was created, only Archbishop James Ussher came close as heaven and earth were created on October 21, 4004 BC. Additionally, the fossils and dinosaur skeletons were a joke that paleontologists haven't realized. These prove that God is playing an ineffable game with the universe and that the Earth is a Libra. On a fateful day, the Tadfield advertiser predicts that Libras will feel run down, but help could come to them from an unexpected quarter. 6,000 years before that, a snake appears in Eden and whispers to Eve to eat an apple. The woman does so and shares it with Adam. Soon, the two are forced to leave the garden, carrying a flaming sword to guide them. The snake climbs over the wall around Eden and turns into the demon Crowley. He joins an angel, Aziraphale, and complains about how God overreacted as he thinks there's nothing wrong with knowing the difference between good and evil. Aziraphale hesitantly suggests that it might be wrong since Crowley was assigned to tempt them into it. The demon then recalls that Aziraphale had a flaming sword, so the angel admits that he gave it to Adam and Eve to protect themselves. He worries if it was wrong to do that, while Crowley wonders if he did the right thing for the humans since demons could get in trouble for doing good. He thinks it's funny if the angel did the bad thing while Crowley did the good one. Aziraphale chuckles at this but realizes that it wouldn't be funny if that were the case. Just then, the first thunderstorm hits, and Aziraphale extends his wing to shield the demon from the rain. The end of days begins when two demons, Hastur and Ligur, emerge from the earth thousands of years later. A car blasts the song Bohemian Rhapsody from afar, and Hastur comments that Crowley has been on Earth for too long. Crowley finally approaches them and reasons that he was caught in traffic. Not interested in his excuses, Hastur orders them to recount their deeds of the day. He starts by saying that he tempted a priest into watching pretty girls, while Ligur convinced a politician to take a bribe. On his turn, Crowley proudly shares that he brought down the mobile phone network in London tonight, suggesting that it will cause 15 million people to get pissed and take it out on each other. Getting to the point, Hastur shows Crowley a basket. Knowing what this means, the demon is in disbelief that it's time and that he has to carry out the plan. Hastur reminds him that this is what they've been working on for centuries, so the hesitant demon grabs the basket and takes it to his car. As he drives away, Crowley curses, unhappy that he'd be carrying out the apocalypse. As if sensing his reluctance, Satan's voice comes from his radio, reminding him that he's earned this position. Crowley then receives his instruction in the form of a fog. However, this causes him to nearly crash, so he swerves and the basket opens behind him, revealing a baby. Meanwhile, Aziraphale is about to enjoy sushi when Gabriel appears. He questions why he eats, so Aziraphale defends that it's nice and helps keep appearances. Gabriel then reveals that such things won't be around for long because things are afoot, and Crowley might be involved, so he tasks Aziraphale to watch him. He warns that the demon has been stationed on Earth as long as Aziraphale, though he wonders why Crowley hasn't spotted the angel yet. In Tadfield, Oxfordshire, Arthur Young drives as his wife, Deirdre, is in labor. Next to them, an ambulance speeds as Harriet Dowling is also in labor while her husband, American diplomat Thaddeus, is on a video call with her. At the nearby birthing hospital run by satanic nuns, Mother Superior explains the plan to switch the Dowling's child with their masters, whom Crowley will be bringing. Soon, they welcome Harriet but are surprised when the Youngs also arrive. Trying to handle things, Sister Grace takes Deirdre away but insists that Arthur stay behind. Arthur smokes outside just as Crowley arrives. Assuming that he's the designated father, the demon asks him where the mother is. Arthur, who thinks he's the doctor, directs him to room 3. In room 3, Deirdre has given birth to her son while Harriet is still in labor in room 4. Meanwhile, Crowley enters and finds Sister Mary, so he gives her the future adversary and Lord of Darkness, and tells her to take him to room 3. On the way, Sister Mary meets Sister Grace and shares that the demon ordered her to take the baby to room 3. She then brings the Antichrist to room 3 just as Deirdre has fallen asleep. Arthur peeks in and is surprised to see 2 babies, but Sister Mary assures him that only one is his son. In room 4, Harriet has finally given birth. The nuns then take the baby away, supposedly to weigh him, while Sister Teresa goes to collect their master's son. When Sister Grace tells her that the baby is in room 3, Sister Teresa heads there and finds Sister Mary chatting with the Youngs. She then takes away the Youngs' real son, mistaking him for the future Lord of Darkness. She delivers him to Harriet, and Mother Superior suggests naming the boy boy Damien. When Harriet doesn't like it, Mother Superior recommends Warlock instead. At the same time, Sister Mary also suggests the name Damien, which Arthur dislikes. In the end, they agreed to name the baby Adam. During all these, the real dowling baby is sent away to an uncertain fate. On the road, Crowley tries to call Aziraphale, but the network is down as per his own doing. Eventually, he finds a phone booth and calls Aziraphale, who's already aware of the impending Armageddon. The next morning, the two discuss the world's fate. Aziraphale scoffs that the child is taken to an American diplomat as if Armageddon is a Hollywood movie. Crowley reminds him that when it's all over, there won't be any classical music, bookshops, or restaurants that Aziraphale loves. They have 11 years to stop it, so the demons suggest working together. Aziraphale, however, is reluctant to plot against heaven. As the night falls, the two end up drinking in Aziraphale's bookshop. The drunken demon rants about every creature perishing in the apocalypse while they still have to deal with eternity. Aziraphale dreads the idea of being stuck in heaven with Gabriel. Meanwhile, the satanic nuns see the new parents off. Hester appears and tells the nuns that their order has served its purpose, so they must dissolve. Sister Teresa demands the reward, so Hester instantly kills her and sets their building on fire. In the bookshop, Crowley comes up with a loophole. He still has to influence the Antichrist into the dark path, and angels are supposed to thwart such evil influences. Therefore, if one made sure that he failed in turning the boy evil, perhaps there's a chance. Convinced, Aziraphale shakes his hand with a smile. 5 years later, Crowley poses as a nanny for the Dowlings while Aziraphale applies as a gardener. During their stay, Aziraphale teaches a 5-year-old warlock to appreciate life while Crowley encourages the boy to dominate the world. Still convinced that Warlock is the future Lord of Darkness, the two soon report to their head offices about their progress. Crowley assures his brethren that the boy is evil and that heaven doesn't suspect a thing. Meanwhile, Aziraphale promises Gabriel that he's influencing the Antichrist toward the light. The angel thinks it's unnecessary since they're meant to win the war, not avoid it. Still, they allow him to continue. 6 years later, and 6 days before the apocalypse, the angel and demon watch the 11-year-old warlock nervously as they're still unsure of what the boy will become. Crowley notes that Hell is sending their biggest hellhound on his birthday to guard Warlock. The Lord of Darkness is meant to name the beast, but if the two succeed in diverting the boy from his destiny, he'd send it away. To be safe, Aziraphale suggests stopping the Hellhound from reaching Warlock. To do this, he plans to act as entertainment for the party to watch over the boy. As the angel practices parlor tricks, the demon calls it demeaning. Finally, Warlock's birthday arrives. Aziraphale acts as a magician, though the kids get bored of him. During this, Crowley acts as a waiter, counting down the time when the Hellhound should arrive. In Hell, Hester releases the Hellhound, which runs to find its master. Warlock's party ends up being a food fight with no Hellhound, so the angel and demon leave. Crowley uses his car radio to contact Hell to ask about the Hound, but they learn that it was released according to schedule. Realizing something's wrong, Crowley pretends to see the Hellhound and ends the call to avoid suspicion. After 11 years, the two finally discover that they have the wrong boy. In Hogback Wood, Adam is with his friends Pepper, Brian, and Wensleydale. A beastly hound approaches and overhears Adam claiming that he wants a dog for his birthday, but clarifies that he wants a little one. This catches the Hellhound by surprise. As Adam thinks of what to name his ideal dog, the Hellhound waits as receiving its name will determine its purpose. Finally, Adam decides to name his pet Dog, and the Hellhound shrinks into a tiny Jack Russell Terrier before going to its master. In the bookshop, Crowley laments how their days from Armageddon, and they've lost the adversary. Suddenly, he senses that the Hellhound has found its master, and the boy has named it. The demon later goes home to think, when Hester and Liger overtake the show on his TV. They tell him that Warlock's family will be taken to the Middle East so the boy can start in Megiddo. Seeing his reluctance, Hester reminds him that Armageddon is why they fell from heaven. After he turns the TV off, Crowley mumbles that he didn't mean to fall, as he just hung out with the wrong crowd. During a signing of a peace accord in North Africa, reporter Carmine Zingiber strolls in to oversee the event. In her presence, the Prime Minister gets offended about the signing, sparking an argument that leads to all parties aiming guns at each other. Suddenly, a mailman arrives and delivers a package to Carmine. From it, she brandishes a sword, so the others aim their guns at her. Unthreatened, she smiles and excuses herself as duty calls. As she walks away, chaos erupts around her as Carmine is the horseman of war. In 1656, Agnes Nutter wrote a letter to her milkman, telling him not to deliver any more milk as she would die today. During this, a mob led by Witchfinder Major Pulsifer marched to her cabin, with villagers recounting how Agnes healed their sickness and ran in the morning, claiming it was good for her health. Pulsifer considered these as signs of witchcraft. However, when they barged into her cabin, Agnes was already waiting for them. She marched her way to the stake and positioned herself. She then encouraged the people to gather as they will witness the death of the last true witch in England. As the people set her ablaze, Pulsifer noticed gunpowder under Agnes's skirt, but it was too late. The pyre exploded, killing all the villagers with her. Upon her death, her daughter, Virtue, and her husband, John Device, received Agnes's book titled The Nice and Accurate Prophecies of Agnes Nutter. Flipping through the pages, Virtue read about an apple that cannot be eaten, which will give good fortune. Despite Virtue thinking this was nonsense, generations of the Device family reaped the benefits of Agnes's prophecies. 350 years later, Agnes's descendant, Anathema, studied her prophecies which predicted the girl's role during the apocalypse. At present, Pulsifer's descendant, Newton, goes to his job. Worriedly, he asks a co-worker if he can complete his job without using a computer, but the woman stares at him in disbelief. When Newton presses a button on his computer, the whole building loses power. Because of this, he gets fired. Meanwhile, an adult Anathema arrives at the airport. When asked about her purpose for her visit, she explains that she's following an ancient prophecy to stop the end of times. The boarding agent gets confused, so she sums it up as a vacation. On the streets, Newton passes by a man preaching about the apocalypse. The man, who introduces himself as Witchfinder Sergeant Shadwell, explains how witchfinders in the old days were respected and paid. When Shadwell learns that the man's name is Newton Pulsifer, he finds his family name familiar but can't remember why. He then starts asking about Newton's body as he believes that witches have deformations. Upon learning that he's normal, Shadwell invites him to apply as his assistant. In Tadfield, Anathema moves into a cottage and gets to work. In his house, Crowley tries to relax by watering his houseplants, but when he sees a spot on a leaf, he gets pissed, and the plant starts shaking in fear. Disappointed, he takes the imperfect plant and yells to the rest to grow better, as the demon seems to like putting the fear of God into them. As a result, his plants are the most verdant, beautiful, and fearful in London. In the bookshop, Aziraphale answers a call from a customer who's looking for the nice and accurate prophecies of Agnes Nutter. The angel chuckles since there's no known copy of that book. The next day, Newton goes to Shadwell's apartment building and meets Madame Tracy, who mistakes as a client for intimate personal relaxation. He clarifies that he wants to join the Witchfinder army, so she directs him to Shadwell's apartment. There, Shadwell proudly claims that they're the defense against the darkness, so he assigns Newton to search through old newspapers for unexplainable phenomena. Later, the angel and the demon rush to the birthing hospital to check the records for the real future adversary. Meanwhile, Anathema is at Hogback Wood using a dowsing rod to search for the same boy. Elsewhere in the woods, Pepper shares with their friends that a witch has moved into town. Wensleydale argues that there are no more witches because they were burned during the Spanish Inquisition. Hearing this, Adam wonders if they can be the new Spanish Inquisition, but Wensleydale points out that they're not Spanish. Still, Adam thinks they can practice before hunting down witches. On the road, Crowley recalls that there's supposed to be an airbase nearby. He explains that the airbase was how they got Harriet, as they made sure she went into labor upon landing so she'd be sent to the nuns' birthing hospital. In the woods, Anathema comes upon Adam and his friends. She comments on their costumes, so Wensleydale explains that they're playing as the British Inquisition to hunt witches, surprising her. As they play, Anathema asks Adam if he's seen a beast around, but the boy just points to Dog as a beast. Unaware that she's already spoken to the Lord of Darkness, the woman bids them goodbye. The angel and demon finally reach the hospital, but someone shoots paintballs at them. A man scolds them, so Crowley shows him his demonic face, making him lose consciousness. As they enter the building, they learn that the place is now used for a combat initiative course as a company's team building exercise. Annoyed, Crowley turns the employees' paintball guns into real ones, changing their exercise into a war. This horrifies the angel, but Crowley assures him that everyone will have miraculous escapes when they get shot. Hearing this, Aziraphale starts complimenting the demon, but the latter stresses that he's not nice. Suddenly, the former Sister Mary, who inherited the building, walks in. Recognizing Crowley, instantly, the demon puts a spell on her so they can interrogate her. Sister Mary confirms that she took the baby to where Crowley directed her. Since she doesn't know what happened afterward, they ask for records, but they were burned in the fire that Hoster started. With that, they snap her out of her trance and leave. As they walk out, Aziraphale wonders if they can sense the boy, but Crowley explains that his powers would be hidden from them. Still, as they drive around that night, the angel senses something about the town which Crowley doesn't notice. At the same time, Anathema bikes her way out of the woods and crashes into Crowley's car. Hurriedly, Aziraphale checks and discreetly heals her broken wrist while Crowley mends his broken headlight. The two soon drop her off at her cottage, but Anathema accidentally leaves her book behind. Later, she receives a call from her mother, who reminds her that the answers are always in the book. Only then does Anathema realize that she lost it, but Crowley's car is already out of sight. As Crowley drops him off at the bookshop, Aziraphale finally discovers the book in the back seat. Seeing the title, he hurries away, not explaining to his friend why. Inside, he carefully inspects the nice and accurate prophecies of Agnes Nutter. Turning a page, he finds a prophecy that predicted that the book would reach him. Enthralled, Aziraphale reads the book all night and soon finds that, according to Agnes, the number of the beast is actually the number of a man. Using this clue, he calls the number, adding the Tadfield area code, and reaches the Young household. Just as Arthur answers his call, Adam yells to his father that he's taught Dog how to walk on his hind legs, which is also included in Agnes's prophecy. Shocked, Aziraphale hangs up, bewildered that he has finally